Our fellowship started in Turkey.
In Adana, where we managed to see the 2 refugee camps.
Both had a population of about 10,000 refugees.
The scale there was just enormous. What we witnessed were basically tent cities.
Unfortunately, in this first camp, which was supposedly created for Syrian dissidents, part of it at least they told us it's for their generals there and stuff. We weren't allowed to communicate that much with the people, make photographs because of security reasons.
In the second refugee camp that we visited in Osmaniye, we were kind of shocked to learn that more than 1,000 babies were born since the camp was open for the past few years. It was emotional for us. Some of them were just a few days old. We were just discussing among us about the future of those kids and what it would look like to just grow up in a tent city, a depressing in a way environment, and what their childhoods would look like.
We went there at the same time after the Turkey-EU deal was made. For me, at least, it really did shed a bit of different light on the Turkey part of the deal. It's a context that it's not easily accessible, so I'm really grateful for that opportunity that we went to the camps, we spoke with the officials, and even though I'm aware it probably wasn't the whole picture, but it was extremely important.
That there are about 2.7 million registered refugees in Turkey, maybe about 1 more million unregistered Syrian refugees in Turkey. And in the camps, in the refugee camps, there would only be maybe 10% of these 2.7 million.
What is kind of like weaker is, I think, outreach towards those who are not living in the camps, and that's of course more difficult because they are scattered throughout the whole country. So I think that needs to be still better organized. So in terms of provision of medical care for everybody, especially education for children.
We also got to speak to a group of so-called non-camp refugees. These are like basically 90% of all refugees who live in Turkey don't live in the refugee camps. So we spoke with a group of, let's say, maybe 50 or maybe more people who live in a village that is close to Syrian-Turkish border. They mostly live in a rented houses, but from what I understood, they live with their relatives because they don't get any support and they also can't work. And that was, a really, emotional event. When we arrived, there was like this half of the village waiting for us.
In contrast to those in refugee camps, they are not entitled to any social benefits. They have the temporary protection status, but they are not included in social benefit schemes.
Then we went to Washington and we have met lots of people from the State Department, and they explained what's the resettlement program about.
Very useful for me. In Slovenia, we will have to establish or set up such a similar system to be able to resettle the refugees on a broader scale. So definitely the US experience gave me a broader perspective about all the various aspects that need to be taken into account when planning a resettlement process.
In the US, I wanted to explore ways how to combat racism, how to combat xenophobia, how to combat anti-Islamist people with a good attitude.
I think I would definitely borrow some ideas in terms of cultural orientation that I saw being done here. Also just really practical stuff that is being given as support to refugees, which doesn't require really a lot of funding, but will be really useful for them.
The employment trainings are done, how to cooperate with employers, how to work with general public, and talking about the impact of refugees to the local economies, and how to actually structure or prepare the society, the general public, to be more welcoming to refugees.
this concept of self-sufficiency, which is amazing. I mean, half a year, almost all refugees have a job. For example, open businesses. And in Columbus, there were almost 800 businesses owned by refugees, and they generated approximately 4,000 jobs.
Actually, what I have experienced during my fellowship in the States is this huge level of cooperation among the agencies and the professionals on the ground and that are working in this field. So I would really like to see this among all the NGO colleagues in Europe.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.